David was born on Saturday, March 4, 1995. So this is the story of David.
He's the fourth of four, the youngest, and we have two older daughters and an older son, and David was the last one. And
our little baby.
We were so excited.
Yeah, life before David, I was pretty young before David came, but I don't remember a lot. I'm just going to assume it wasn't very fun. But once David came, I just remember distinctly how the house just became, I don't know, a happier place.
We noticed when David was born, he had a skin condition, but we thought that was very temporary and it would disappear. We were told by the physicians in the hospital that it was just something temporary in a couple of weeks.
He pushed down on David's skin and it turned white. And he said, see, it'll go away.
They noticed that the circulation was fine, everything was good, and they said, it'll be fine, don't worry, it'll take a couple of weeks, and it's, trauma from the birth probably, and that's what it was. So we thought, well, what are we gonna do? Maybe the kids will make fun of him, maybe something will happen, maybe we should just try to fix it now when he's young, and then he won't have to worry about it later. So we went online, very primitive online that we, so we could go, because this was, 20 years ago. And
they didn't have Google back then.
Right, almost 20 years ago. It's only 19. And so it was 19 years ago, and then we went online and we found a doctor who did laser surgery that we were told it was wonderful. She taught everybody in Toronto, and she was in Boston. So we contacted her via the computer, and she said send us pictures. We did, and then we finally went to Boston with David when he was just over a year. And she said that she could fix it and everything would be good, and we could,
no problem.
We could laser surgery it, and it would be fine. Everything would be fine. He would grow and grow out of it. It would be good. So we took David to Boston, and she was so renowned. She was so well known. We thought we found the right person, and they didn't really give us any type of pre-surgical instruction or anything, and it wasn't really surgery. It was just a laser type of pulse dye laser. That's what it was called. And she said all David will feel, it was like just elastic bands on his face, stinging. But then you go home, you put some cream on, it'll be fine, it'll heal, it'll be okay. So we did that, and we were holding David, and I just remember that. It was awful.
The scariest thing is David had to wear these bandages on his face, and it made him look like, I remember the movie The Invisible Man. If you take off the bandages, there's no face left. And I just remember like his whole face was covered with bandages.
It was awful.
So David's 2 years old, and we're a little concerned about his speech. He's not talking as we had expected in terms of sentences and words, and we were concerned. So we took him to see a specialist.
The thing is, when we had 3 previous children, we knew the age, the point of reference of where he should be speaking and saying just, mommy, daddy, just even basic sounds, and he wasn't. So our pediatrician wasn't too alarmed or whatever, but Michael and I just had a feeling that something wasn't right, and he was reacting and he was responding, but he just wasn't speaking. So we got referred to a pediatric neurologist. We were sitting in the waiting room, and I remember everyone who came out.
That's a scary feeling.
They were going for MRIs and tests, and
you could see that the children in the waiting room had obvious deficiencies.
Severely, like a lot of them had Down syndrome, and you could just see that it was very scary, and it was not. And he looked at David, and he examined David, and he just watched him, and he turned to us and he said, he's fine. And we said, well, what do you mean he's fine? You don't even know, you haven't sent us for tests, you haven't sent us for all these tests you're sending everyone in the waiting room for. He said, I don't have to. And we said, why? He says, his eyes are busy. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, you look at David, and even though he's not speaking, he's noticing everything, and he's going to understand a lot more before he can speak, but he's processing things. And you can see, because he doesn't have a fixed glare, and he's not gazing and not looking around. He's busy. There's action going on inside of there. He just can't get it out yet.
Now, he said something that we'll never forget, and it's been our credo for David from that point on. And he said, do not expect anything less from David than you would any of your other children. Always make sure that you expect the most from him, and that'll serve David well.
He said, always raise the bar high and don't lower the bar because you think he can't reach it. And he said, he'll be talking by the time he's 5. And then Michael and I were 5? He's only 2 now. What do you mean we have to wait 3 years? Are you sure? How do you know? He goes, trust me on that. He will be fine.
So David's about 3 years old, and I remember I got a call from Sally, and she's so excited. She says, Michael, you won't believe it. Oh my gosh, you won't believe it. Sally, what is it? What is it?
We had all these videos, and out of the cases had all the titles of the videos, but out of the cases, they were VHS, a little before everybody's time, I'm sure. So we had a bunch of videos beside us, all the cases, and I was trying to match them up. I was trying to match them up and read them. And then David was beside me, and he was taking all the videos and putting them in the right cases. And I'm thinking, how does he know how to do that? There's nothing that shows, there's no matching
Just
pictures.
the words.
There's just words on there. And he would look at it, and he'd look at the case, and he'd put it in. And he did this, I tested him, it sounds a little weird, but I did, and he got everyone right.
From the day one at the public school, he loved going to school. If he couldn't go to school because he wasn't feeling well, he would do everything he possibly could to go to school.
One out of 4 that actually looked forward to going and didn't want a vacation and would rather be in school, which was unbelievable.
David started to shine. So one of the first highlights that I remember of public school is when David did the talent show.
He said he wanted to go into the talent show, and Michael and I are like, okay, whatever you want to do, you
Don't
can do
expect
this.
anything less.
And he sang Tomorrow from Annie. That was the first song he sang. And we were sitting there at parent night, and it was like all the parents were there after school. It was an evening. And we sat there, and
Wow.
who just, terrible to say, but it's true, they looked at him and they didn't know what was wrong with David, because to look at him, he looked very obviously different, that they looked at him with such pity, or they felt bad for him. All of a sudden they're coming up to say, oh my gosh, your child's amazing, and David, you were great.
He was amazing.
And he was beaming, and we were sort of like unbelievable that he needed that so badly, and I guess we needed it too, because we were kind of.
It was a nice boost.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
I just remembered. They asked, because David was sang so well, they asked him to sing O Canada at all of their openings. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
David was not always the best socially when he was younger, so you'd think maybe public speaking wasn't the right thing for David.
He practiced and he got up in front of the class. I think it was he had to qualify through the class, and he had to go through a couple of stages, and he made it to the finals.
He won in the class, right? They voted for him in the class, and then he made it to the grade finals, and I think he came in 3rd in the school, and it was amazing.
You talking to me, and in the morning, I'm making waffles. Let the force be with you. Good. I am your father. I'm king of the world. And beyond, it's showtime.
My brother introduced us to a Bar Mitzvah teacher that was just a perfect fit.
Who was a woman just around the corner from us, and we thought, usually you learn from a male because they go through it, and we thought a woman, okay, we'll try her. She was such a perfectionist.
Amazing.
It was incredible, and she never treated David any differently, and she taught him, and if it wasn't perfect, she would go over it and over it, because every class he had, I sat through and I went, and I don't speak the language either, but I just heard the way she was teaching him and how David learned it. And even if we had a week off for a holiday, he would come back and she said, I can't believe it. He remembered everything that we did. And even more so when he would finish, and with his voice, because he does have a beautiful voice, she would finish the class and she would say, oh, I just love listening to him. He's my star student. And I thought she's being dramatic, but he really was great. He really was.
I just remember learning the Bar Mitzvah stuff was just torturous. And I'd like to think I was pretty good at it. I couldn't learn this stuff. It was not only was it gibberish, it was different tones, different pitches. It's all this stuff that you just don't want to learn. It's not interesting, and it's impossible to learn. So when it came time for David to do his, we all knew that I hated it, and I found it incredibly hard, and we just assumed David would do less than I did, because, we were still stupid enough to think that David had limitations. And the day finally came, and again, David blew everyone away with his performance. It was just unbelievable.
Reach, nichochi, tishmeru, lehakrivli, bimo adon.
And since then, David went back to the teacher, and he learned another Rosh Chodesh, which is a monthly parsha that he does, and it's absolutely beautiful. Every so often, once a month, he will do it in the synagogue, and I relish the opportunity to hear David. It's a beautiful, beautiful experience, and he also does the Kiddush on Friday night and on Saturday afternoon. It's so beautiful to hear him sing the words. It's a very, very spiritual experience, very moving experience. So David graduated high school. We were very, very proud of him. But just before graduation, they have these college fairs where all the colleges come out in one convention. It was actually Toronto Convention Center.
It was in November.
And they have all the information about the colleges. And actually, before that too, at one of the high schools, we went to an information session and we met with various educators in terms of what the options were for David. And it was very discouraging because David was too high functioning for the extra special programs, but he was not high functioning enough for the regular programs.
And certain programs are only offered out of town, so David would have to go live in residence away from home, and that was kind of difficult too.
But again, we met the right people at the right time, and David found a home at Seneca at York.
When David comes home and he tells me all the people that are helping him at Seneca, it's amazing to know that there's so many people willing to go above and beyond and help David get through this program and make sure that he understands what he's doing and just take the time.
He's loving it and having an
amazing.
amazing time, and
Everybody there it's been a blessing, just a blessing that David goes to school and he just loves every day there, and everyone he works with, and people, it just couldn't be nicer, and it's just incredible. We have no words. We're just so grateful. And then he said, I don't feel well, and we had found out that he'd gone to the bathroom, and it was, I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but it looked like a crime scene. It was terrible.
full of blood.
It was awful. And I just called Michael, and normally I'm a very emotional person and I panic a lot, but I said, we better get David to the hospital right now.
David's at the hospital. We're waiting in the emergency room, and he's very, very faint. He's having trouble keeping his head up, and he's not looking well. So we finally, after some time, we get him inside the emergency room, inside the inner room, and it just went horrible. He fainted. His eyes went behind his head.
They couldn't find his
Liquids
blood
were
pressure.
coming out. He had no blood pressure. It turns out that he lost 10 or 11
He
units.
was bleeding internally, and we didn't know, nobody knew, and out of 12 units of blood in your body, by the time they got him up to the intensive care, which moved very quickly, and without, not without some screaming and actually hysteria for my part, he lost about 10 units of blood out of the total 12 units.
They found the spot where it was bleeding, not
the first time. They
No.
went in the first time, and they said he was okay, and we had a false sense of security, and then he started bleeding out again, and
code
then
blue, the whole thing.
it was awful. It was just a terrible experience. He was there for
We-
12 days, and
We were in the ICU and waiting
8
room.
days in
And
intensive
we were
care.
praying for his life. There's
Yeah.
some incredible doctors. They saved his life.
They saved his life, and we didn't have to do the surgery that one of the surgeons had suggested, and we just met up again with the right people and the right surgeons and the right doctors, and thank God he came home in time to start his wonderful program at York, at Seneca. So everything worked out. It was really a very tough couple of weeks, but thank God, and he's where he should be right now, and we're
Very
thanking God every
thankful.
day. We're very blessed.
I don't remember the bris. It's probably better that way.
Yes.
But Adam, keep it appropriate.
He's gonna cut this.
To know
Looking
that.
at you. Stop picking your nose.
Oh my.
You have your opinions, I have mine. And just like